Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Kevin Hogan. Let's take a look at our top stories. Full speed ahead for search efforts at the Florida condo collapse. The mayor saying it's much safer for rescuers since they demolished the rest of the building. The CEO of the software company struck by the latest ransomware attack says up to 1,500 businesses around the world were affected. He says they're turning to the FBI for what to do next. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is now appealing to the public for information on suspicious cross-border activity. That's while more guns and ammo are being smuggled into Mexico. And a national debate is underway about how racism is taught in schools. On Sunday, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo warned that teaching critical race theory could be an attempt to divide the country. Search efforts at the site of the Florida condo collapse are now at 100% capacity. That's according to the city's mayor. He says the site is much safer now that the damaged building is no longer a threat. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Rescuers in Florida searching through fresh rubble Monday despite inclement weather. Officials say the demolition of the rest of the collapsed condo Sunday night makes it safer to search.
The looming threat of that building, the dangerous situation where debris could fall down is now eliminated. So we're operating at 100% capacity, and I'm very excited about that.
Officials say crews are now able to reach places they couldn't before, including bedrooms. Many of the victims are believed to have been sleeping at the time of the collapse.
That the search and rescue team has been able to search all sections of the grid on the collapse following the building demolition.
A member of the Israeli search team says they were able to get back on the pile just 20 minutes after the demolition.
The emotion is both relief and, of course, that we had the chance to get to a new old area, which was before closed.
He says another positive is they're now able to get more heavy equipment in, like bulldozers. Before, they could only operate 2 or 3 maximum.
And now we operate 4 bulldozers, including one bulldozer inside the parking lot, which was absolutely unreachable and untouchable because of the conditions of the pile.
It's been nearly 2 weeks since the collapse. Although the chance of finding survivors is down, Colonel Adri says the outpouring of support keeps them going.
We get a huge hug from the community, a lot of help, a lot of goodwill, a lot of love. It gives us the motivation because the actions along the operation are very tough.
Forecasts predict the Surfside area will likely avoid most of the oncoming tropical storm. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Tropical storm Elsa neared landfall around Cuba's Bay of Pigs on Monday and is set to hit Florida's west coast on Wednesday. It's already caused at least 3 deaths, flooding, and damage in the Caribbean. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas with the report.
Caribbean island nations are bracing for another especially active hurricane season. Tropical storm Elsa comes as they're already struggling with the economic impact of the pandemic on their tourism-reliant economies. The storm system has already wreaked havoc in parts of Barbados, St. Lucia, Haiti, Jamaica, and the Dominican Republic. Now Florida residents are preparing.
If we have a lot of water, which we might, I wait till later to get sandbags, there won't be any left, and then I'll have a wet bedroom.
Cuba's Meteorology Institute said it clocked Elsa moving northwest at 14 miles per hour, with sustained winds peaking near 60 miles per hour. Elsa is expected to pass near the Florida Keys early Tuesday, then move near or over portions of the west coast of Florida on Tuesday and Wednesday, according to the NHC.
I've been here 25 years. I've been through a lot of them. I've been through pop-up storms out in the Gulf where, it's you and Mother Nature. And you better be nice because you don't get second chances, right?
Cuban state media report more than 100,000 people there have been evacuated, adding that few tornadoes were possible across South Florida on Monday night and across the Florida Peninsula on Tuesday.
Just prepare and keep your head down.
The National Hurricane Center says a tropical storm watch and storm surge watch are active for much of Florida's west coast. Meteorologists are forecasting an above normal 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. That's following the 2020 season, the most active on record, producing 30 named tropical storms. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Mexican cartels appear to be gearing up for war, and now Homeland Security officials are trying to stop weapons from being smuggled into Mexico. ICE is appealing to the public for information on cross-border activity. The investigation arm of ICE is attempting to stop weapons from going into Mexico. That's so they can stop violence in Mexico and allow the country's government to combat the cartels. What's more, the acting special agent in charge of Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI, said by reducing the violence in Mexico, we will also keep the violence from crossing over to the U.S. and keep that from rising up in the U.S. The HSI official said weapons being smuggled into Mexico from the U.S. start out as legal purchases, but then they're illegally transferred, and they're often financed with money made from drug trafficking. HSI is looking for information on the who, what, where, and when. They're pleading to the public for tips on things like spotting cars driving to the southwest border and their license plates. Then DHS will try to intercept the car on its way to the border. They're also looking for tips via this number and website on people buying guns across the country who will then transfer them to cartels. Officials said smuggling firearms into Mexico is a federal crime, and they launched Operation Without a Trace in November 2018. The operation has resulted in about 150 investigations, over 130 arrests, seizing about 600 firearms, and over $11 million. Former DPS Captain Jason Jones told the Epoch Times war is coming, and that's why we've seen violence and skirmishes between the cartels ramping up in recent months. He says cartels are stocking up on firepower and purchasing military-grade weapons from Central and South American countries. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo voiced concerns on Sunday, calling critical race theory programs an attempt to divide the country. That comes after a national debate exploded this spring over the teaching of racism in schools.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is sending out a warning about what he calls the threat of teaching critical race theory and the 1619 Project. Sunday, Pompeo appeared on the Cats Roundtable, a radio show broadcast on New York City's WABC 77. Asked about his concerns for the future of the country, he said he was worried about some of the things that are taught in our schools.
It strikes at the very moorings, the very foundations of our country. And so I certainly worry about that. It's called critical race theory sometimes, or the 1619 Project. But at the end, they're attacking the central understandings that we have shared together for 245 years and attempt to divide the country.
Back in April, the Education Department proposed funding education programs in support of critical race theory, or CRT. These programs incorporate the works of CRT advocate Ibram X. Kendi and the controversial 1619 Project. It claims America was founded a racist nation. Pompeo warned the efforts could damage the values that make America unique.
I'm an optimist, but I do worry that if we become fractured or we lose faith in our constitutional principles, that somewhere, somehow, or some adversary like the Chinese Communist Party will come undermine what's made our country so special.
Critical race theory is rooted in the Marxist theory of class struggle, but with a particular focus on race. In a call to action, Pompeo encouraged all Americans to take firm control of education, making sure children learn the history of how socialism and communism have failed around the world.
The co-founder of Wikipedia says it's more one-sided than ever. He says conservative opinions have been purged and only progressive globalist viewpoints are allowed.
Co-founder of Wikipedia, Larry Sanger, says the online encyclopedia he helped create is more one-sided than ever. In a recent article on his webpage, he says there is a crucial difference between propaganda and information that supports individual deliberation. The difference is neutrality. He says a neutral viewpoint does not exclude points of view by deciding which are correct. It presents various viewpoints and allows people to decide for themselves what to believe. Sanger says the neutrality that is supposed to be one of the 5 pillars of Wikipedia does not exist. He says Wikipedia editors systematically purge conservative sources, and that Fox News, the New York Post, Newsmax, and many others are banned. Sanger lists 4 politically controversial topics and shows how each one of them is biased towards the Democrats' viewpoints in Wikipedia's articles. He says democracy requires that people have access to information so they can make up their own mind. But Wikipedia has turned into another deeply biased institution, and this gives enormous power to people who can control the information. The Wikipedia Foundation did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
A South Carolina Congresswoman says she's now carrying a gun wherever she goes. It follows death threats after winning her congressional race and finding vandalism on her home. The vandals allegedly wrote profanity and Antifa symbols on the home of Congresswoman Nancy Mace on Memorial Day. Police are still investigating the matter. She says she wasn't home when the vandalism occurred. Her children also weren't there. Mace decided to get a concealed weapons permit after the death threats. She says one of the most empowering things a person can do is be able to defend themselves. In a Fox interview, Mace said there was little sympathy on social media when she announced the vandalism, saying that people claimed she vandalized her own home to gain publicity. Mace says she's now using the vandalism to fundraise. Texas joined 21 other states asking the Supreme Court to uphold Hawaiians' Second Amendment rights to bear arms outside their homes. This effort was led by the Attorneys General of Louisiana, Arizona, and Montana.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, a Republican, confirmed last week that his state is joining the amicus brief. Paxton stated the blatant misinterpretation of the Second Amendment by the Ninth Circuit must be remedied. We are asking for the court to simply uphold the Second Amendment as it is written. The ruling of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals last year was in favor of Hawaii's law. It bans residents from carrying firearms outside their homes. Texas and 21 other states filed an amicus brief with the High Court. They argue that the residents' Second Amendment rights include using guns outside their homes. The states wrote in their brief, one of the highest responsibilities of a state is to safeguard the rights of its citizens, including the right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment. These states are also trying to help resolve a split among the Federal Circuit Courts of Appeal. Several of the courts ruled against the 2008 District of Columbia v. Heller case, a landmark gun rights ruling. They said the lower court's inconsistent decisions have also prevented citizens from amici states from carrying firearms across state lines.
Republican Jeff Deal announces a run for governor of Massachusetts. Charlie Baker, the state's current governor, is also a Republican. He hasn't said if he plans to seek a third term. Deal is a former Massachusetts state representative and a vocal supporter of former President Donald Trump, while Baker is a Trump critic. Baker called on the former president to resign after the January 6th Capitol breach and supported impeachment. If the two run against each other, their views on Trump will likely become a focal point of the campaign. Massachusetts is a Democrat stronghold. Deal lost a Senate race there in 2018 to Elizabeth Warren by 24 points. 3 Democrats have already announced plans to run in next year's election for governor. Coming up, a congressman says military servicemen will consider quitting the military if COVID vaccines are mandated. A new report says that may just happen. And the makers of Tabasco sauce ramp up conservation efforts in Louisiana. The Gulf Coast state has lost 2,000 square miles of its coast since 1932, with hurricanes still threatening the area. Find out more in just a minute. Rumors about a vaccine mandate have some military members saying they'll quit if this turns out to be true. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on that, and the congressman who says that this is what they're telling him.
Small pinch, 1, 2, 3.
Right now, getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is voluntary in the Army. But according to a report by Army Times, they may soon require everyone to get the shot. A military document obtained by the media says, prepare for a directive to mandate COVID-19 vaccination for service members on or around September 1st, pending full FDA licensure. On Twitter, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie said members of voluntary military say they will quit if the vaccine is mandated. He didn't say how many told him this or how they would quit. You can't leave the Army unless you've fulfilled your contract, are honorably or dishonorably discharged, or get punished for leaving without permission. In that last scenario, you could even face jail time. Massie has proposed a bill that would ban vaccine mandates for COVID in the military. A U.S. Army spokesperson told the Army Times that they're ready to mandate the vaccine if the Pentagon orders it done. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
The Louisiana family behind world-famous Tabasco hot sauce is on a mission to help conserve wetlands that protect the coastal region from hurricanes and floods. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas with the story.
As storms grow more violent and Louisiana loses more of its coast, the family that makes Tabasco sauce is fighting erosion in the marshland. These marshes act as buffers, protecting the factory from hurricanes and floods.
We're in the marshes, which means we're basically at sea level. Avery Island is a high point in that. It's 168 feet tall. It's a salt dome.
In a state that has lost 2,000 square miles of its coast since 1932, Tabasco has managed to stay above water. The company has been brewing Tabasco sauce here on Avery Island since 1868.
We've been making Tabasco sauce here for 152 years. It started out as sort of the original cottage industry. It was made in my great-great-grandfather's pigeon-air, if you will, and he was making it in the 1860s, late 1860s, 1870s.
The company fills up to 700,000 Tabasco bottles a day, selling them in 195 countries. The operation is located on the tip of a salt column several miles deep. A 20-foot-high, $5 million earthen levee now encloses the 40 acres around Tabasco's factory. This is because Hurricane Rita's storm surge pushed floodwaters within inches of the place in 2005. Much of the wetlands work is low-tech, with volunteers planting marsh grass in the 30,000 acres around the small island. It's also one of the areas hit hardest by the 2010 Gulf of Mexico oil spill.
The key to our success is when you slow the water down or the erosion down. And it works well in South Louisiana because we like a slow pace, so if we can slow things down, it has a really positive effect.
Osborne holds a master's degree in environmental science from Oxford University, but he has a family legacy of conservation. The company's founder, Edmund McElhaney, was a naturalist. Osborne's great-grandfather, E.A. McElhaney, created an egret breeding ground on the island in 1895. At the time, the birds were edging toward extinction due to hunters who sold their feathers to decorate women's hats. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Extreme drought plagues a river basin on the California-Oregon border, dividing local communities on how the limited water should be allocated. Americans had celebrated the 4th of July across the nation, including in a Walmart. A group of Texas shoppers show their love for the country by joining together and singing the Star-Spangled Banner mid-shop. All that and more here on NTD News.
The wait is finally over. Shen Yun returns to the stage with an all-new production filled with beauty, majesty, and a powerful message of hope. Discover the lost culture of ancient China. Discover this season, Shen Yun 2021.
Coming to the Palace Theater, July 24th and 25th. Tickets at shenyun.com/Stanford, 888-90-SHOWS.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here, and if you're on Medicare, this is important. You're now entitled to eliminate co-pays and get dental care, dentures, eyeglasses, prescription coverage, in-home aids, unlimited transportation, and home-delivered meals, all at no additional cost. Plus, your zip code may have coverage with the Give Back benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every month.
I called to get dental, transportation, meals, and the Give Back benefit.
With this virus situation, I called to get everything I'm entitled to. I couldn't believe I was missing out on so many benefits.
With the uncertainty of the virus, you need to get everything you're entitled to. Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline. You can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
Extreme drought is tearing apart communities in a massive river basin spanning the Oregon-California border. That's after authorities halted water irrigation for hundreds of farmers for the first time in history. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
This summer, a historic drought is dividing the communities dependent on the waters of the Klamath River. Ben Duval's family has farmed this land for 3 generations. For the first time, he and hundreds of others aren't getting any water at all.
Everybody depends on the water of the Klamath River for their livelihood. And that's the blood that ties us all together.
Some affected farmers say a guarantee of at least some water each year would be better than nothing. Some worry the problems in the basin are getting blamed on a way of life they inherited. Duval's daughter dreams of taking over the family farm someday, but he isn't sure he and his wife, Erica, can hang on to the land if things don't change.
Constant looming threat over me that am I going to be the generation that ends up losing the family farm because of situation that's beyond my control.
The farmers rely on a federally managed dam on Upper Klamath Lake for their water, but the lake is also home to endangered suckerfish, and the federal government must keep the lake at a minimum depth to support the fish. Water is always in short supply, but this year there wasn't enough to ensure those levels and supply farmers. The Native American Klamath tribes consider the fish species critical to their culture and heritage. They've fought to preserve it and keep lake levels up.
Archaeological evidence has this here for 14,000 years. But our worldview and our traditional worldview is everything that was placed here for a purpose, including us. And those fish that were created for us were to provide for our subsistence.
Meanwhile, toxic algae is blooming in the river basin's main lake, and 2 national wildlife refuges for migratory birds are dying out. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Some California drivers who spent the holiday in Las Vegas now have traffic tickets as souvenirs. Interstate 15 toward the state line was jammed for miles Monday. The Nevada State Highway Patrol says some drivers tried to skip the line by driving on the shoulder. That led to scenes like this one. Here's a trooper pulling over a driver using the very shoulder the person had tried to use as an escape route to bypass the traffic. The patrol tweeted, quote, "We could do this all day. Oh wait, we have." Authorities remind drivers the shoulder is only for emergency stopping. Shoppers at a Walmart in Texas broke out in song over the 4th of July weekend, singing none other than the Star-Spangled Banner. The patriotic scene went viral. Here are the details.
Hands over hearts. Men, women, and children in a Haslett, Texas Walmart took a break from their shopping to join in singing the national anthem. The patriotic scene, complete with American flags overhead, came about when one shopper started singing and set off a chain of reaction as other shoppers joined in. The scene was captured on video and posted to social media, the caption reading, "God bless Texas and God bless the USA." The clip was widely shared over 4th of July weekend and has been viewed over 1.1 million times. One person commented, "Proof there is still hope for our great country. Happy 4th of July, America, and to all proud Americans." After the patriotic sing-along, the store erupted in applause. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
Still to come, Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam defends changes to the city's privacy laws. The laws received criticism for how they would affect tech companies. And one commissioner from the city of Anaheim, California, was removed by city council members because he was vocal about not wanting a sister city relationship with Pudong, China. Stay tuned to find out more. Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam said on Tuesday that proposed changes to the city's privacy law will only target illegal doxing behavior. She's referring to the practice of sharing people's personal data without their consent. Here's more on Hong Kong.
Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam has responded to a warning that Facebook, Google and other tech firms would have to stop offering services in the city if privacy laws there change. Lam said Tuesday the proposed changes will only target illegal behaviour. She singled out doxing, the sharing of people's personal data without their consent. During the city's 2019 protests, police were doxed when their details were released online. In late June, The Asia Internet Coalition, which counts Facebook, Google and Apple as members, issued a letter to Hong Kong officials. They argue changes to privacy laws in Hong Kong could see individuals hit with severe sanctions, but gave no further details. Lam responded to reporter questions over that anxiety.
Our amendment targets illegal doxing behavior and empowers government officials to take action and carry out investigations. If an online platform is concerned about the privacy law, government officials will be happy to meet with them to listen to their concerns.
Also on Tuesday, Lam said that ideologies posed risks to national security and urged parents, teachers and religious leaders to observe the behaviour of teenagers and report those who break the law to the authorities. Since China imposed a sweeping national security law last year, the most prominent government opponents have been jailed or have fled abroad. Critics say the legislation has crushed the city's wide-ranging rights and freedoms, while supporters say it has restored stability.
One city official from Southern California has been removed from the council. He claims that the Chinese regime is responsible for the pandemic. He also opposed a sister city agreement with China. NTD's reporter Brandon Dre has more on the story.
Earlier this year, the Anaheim City Council voted unanimously to remove Larry Larson from the Sister City Commission.
And tonight,
Mr. Larson, I'm sorry.
Yes, I understand. Tonight there's going to be a kangaroo court and a lynch mob, and they're going to destroy me and my reputation, kick me off Sister Cities, which you voted to put me on because I said China virus.
We have a city council to now vote on the motion, which is voted to consider removal of Larry Larson from the Sister City. There's a motion and a second.
Anaheim is part of Sister Cities International, a nonprofit that bridges U.S. cities with others around the world. The commission recently considered adding Pudong, a district in Shanghai, China, to the list of partnering cities. Both Anaheim and Pudong are home to Disney amusement parks. But Larson challenged the idea after the virus harmed both children's education and local tourism during the pandemic.
Anaheim has suffered greatly. And it would be kind of like, you know, your next door neighbor burned down your house, and after you rebuilt, you invite him over for the housewarming barbecue.
Larson says his opposition to the Pudong partnership and controversial comments about the virus influenced the council's decision.
The political pressure was put on them. I was an easy sacrificial lamb.
He says he received no explanation or due process for his removal.
And I can't help but think that this was directed by people beyond the city council, who is controlled pretty much everything they do by Disney Corp.
Now, I reached out to the city of Anaheim for comment. They did not respond to the request. In Los Angeles, Brandon Dre, NTD News.
Two renowned Chinese scientists were violently attacked and hospitalized by an aerospace company's executive. Details are now released a month after the assault reportedly happened, right around the time China's Communist Party celebrated a milestone anniversary.
When the chairman of China's state-owned aerospace company and Communist Party Secretary Zhang Tao invited two distinguished scientists over for dinner, he expected them to give him a recommendation. It's needed to become a member of an international astronautics organization, but the two scientists declined his request because it was their first time meeting him. Zhang wasn't pleased. He soon became violent, kicking and pushing the two scientists. A Chinese state-owned media outlet posted the surveillance video online Saturday, capturing the attack. The footage shows Zhang kicking 55-year-old Wang Jinyan in the back and shoving 85-year-old Wu Meirong. Zhang also slapped one of his subordinates who tried to restrain him. Zhang even dragged Wang out of the elevator to continue beating him. He put Wang in a chokehold at one point, screaming, "I will be an academic. I have endless money, and I'm going to beat you to death." The incident happened a month ago, but wasn't public knowledge until Saturday. That's after the Communist Party had celebrated its 100th anniversary on Thursday. Over the past month, Zhang continued working as normal for his aerospace company, called China Aerospace Investment. The investment company currently manages over $34 billion in assets and was started by state-owned company China Aerospace Science and Technology. China Aerospace Science and Technology issued a statement on Sunday, saying the company would take the matter seriously and had suspended Zhang. The statement also claims Zhang consumed alcohol before the incident. According to reports, Wang suffered rib fractures and various other injuries, while Wu suffered spinal fractures and required surgery. For now, they're still recovering in the hospital. Both scientists are members of the International Academy of Astronautics, or IAA. Wu was awarded one of the highest honors in space science. She's one of just 2 Chinese researchers and the second woman to win the award. In his online company biography, Zhang is described as a Communist Party member and the holder of an unspecified doctoral degree. It says Zhang has mainly worked in management positions within the company. According to IAA, its membership base consists of individuals who have distinguished themselves in one of the fields of astronautics or one of the branches of science of fundamental importance for the exploration of space. As of now, no one without academic achievements or who isn't a technical expert in their field has been selected to join IAA.
Next up, French champagne makers are speaking out against a new requirement affecting champagne exported to Russia. One industry group is now trying to stop shipments. Greece prepares for tourist season this summer after a year of pandemic-induced losses. It's been a slow start, but some businesses are confident the pace will pick up. Find out more in just a moment.
If you're like most of us, you're probably getting fed up with the nonsense that's going on in the banking system. Did you know that top U.S. banks have recently amended their depositor terms and conditions to include the words bank failure and what's required of you in 24 hours if, or should I say when, it happens? Don't get blindsided by your bank. Call GSI Exchange today to pick up your complimentary copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide at 866-424-2382. We'll also send you the required format to file with your bank within 24 hours of their failure, which is now required by the top banks to avoid freezing of your funds. Yes, the top banks can now freeze your money. The world is in a strange place, and banks are constantly changing the rules. So stay on top of the current events that really matter by calling GSI Exchange and requesting your free guide at 866-424-2382.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
With Shepherd Lock, you can unlock your door by touching the deadbolt. Shepherd also boosts your home's security by proactively freezing in place if anyone ever tries to tamper with your lock or break down your door. We also make it easy to manage keys without hiding them under the mat. Easily create temporary keys for house guests, neighbors, or anyone else. Installation takes less than 5 minutes. Visit shepherdlock.com to buy your Shepherd Lock today, and for a limited time, enjoy 10% off.
On Monday, France's champagne industry group blasted a new Russian law. The rule forces foreign champagne producers to add a sparkling wine reference to their bottles in addition to the word champagne. Now the group is pushing to halt exports of the beverage to Russia. Here's more.
Tensions between Moscow and French winemakers bubbled over on Monday when France's champagne industry group called on its members to halt all shipments of the fizzy beverage to Russia over a new law signed by Russian President Vladimir Putin that forces foreign champagne producers to add the words sparkling wine to their labels. The law requires all non-Russian producers of sparkling wine to describe their product as such on the back of every bottle, but Russian makers of Champanskoye may continue to use that term alone. In response, France's Champagne Wine Professionals Committee said all shipments to Russia should be halted for the time being, and said the name champagne, which refers to the region in France the drink comes from, had legal protection in 120 countries.
It's tragic for the producers who are losing the legitimate right to use this name. It's also tragic for our business with Russia because, at least temporarily, champagne wines will no longer be able to be exported to Russia because they no longer conform with the rules.
The Champagne Committee also called on French and European Union diplomats to get the law changed. Meanwhile, Moet Hennessy, the maker of Dom Perignon, said it would comply with the law and begin adding the word sparkling wine to the back of bottles destined for Russia.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson sets out plans for the final step in easing England's COVID-19 lockdown, including guidance on social distancing, face coverings, and working from home. NTD's Neil Woodrow asks Londoners how they feel about losing their face masks.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced on Monday that England will return to near normal for the first time since March 2020, as he set out plans to lift almost all remaining COVID restrictions. From July the 19th, all restrictions on social gatherings and mass events will end, and so will the legal requirement to wear a mask indoors. Pubs and bars will no longer have to serve customers sitting down, and nightclubs will be allowed to open their doors for the first time in 16 months. Capacity limits for theatres and cinemas will be lifted, and the government's advice for people to work from home will be dropped. The Prime Minister told a news conference,
"We must be honest with ourselves that if we can't reopen our society in the next few weeks, when we will be helped by the arrival of summer and by the school holidays, then we must ask ourselves, when will we be able to return to normal?"
Earlier, I asked Londoners how they feel about losing their face masks. This lady is not happy that the wearing of masks will be voluntary.
Because my mother hasn't been ill for 2 years, where she's always been a bit ill just through, I think, staying away from people and wearing a mask. She's 93 and usually she's quite ill.
This gentleman thinks if people feel comfortable, they should go ahead and not wear the mask. But he says it's not easy to know what the right way is.
I mean, it's a difficult one to answer because no one knows the full facts, do they? And that's the truth of it. On one side, the conspiracy theorists said it's all made up, and the medical people say it's a real problem. So somewhere through that, we've got to live our lives, haven't we?
This man says he feels relaxed about the voluntary mask wearing.
You know, from day one they were saying as soon as 60% of the population are vaccinated, then there shouldn't be a problem, and it's all about protecting the health service. So, you know, we're going to have to learn to live with it, aren't we? Basically.
And this gentleman says it's time to move on.
I'm happy. I think, you know, I think I've had enough of it now. Obviously, if I feel unsafe in a particular area, then I've got the option to wear it if I do feel like it, but I think we've all reached the stage where we just want to get rid of them now.
This lady has concern for her elderly parents.
I would rather they weren't voluntary, just because at the moment there's such a rise in cases. And you don't, even if you've had the jab, you're not immune. So personally, I'd rather not infect my elderly parents unknowingly.
Although the restrictions are changing, the Prime Minister says the pandemic is far from over. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
One man is on a mission to keep the tradition of Libson's trams alive. He looks after a warehouse where he's holding on to their history just outside Portugal's capital city.
The clatter of Lisbon's trademark old yellow trams has been echoing through the cobbled streets for over a century. But as more and more of them are retired from service, Paulo Marques works to keep them functioning.
Since I was a kid going to school, to work, it was part of my life because I lived in an area with 6 tram routes. That's where the passion started.
Away from big crowds, Marques has been collecting and restoring old rusty trams since his first acquisition in 1996.
When I bought the first tram, people asked me, "What do you want that for?" They didn't really care, but there is more respect now, because the tram became Lisbon's symbol.
The historic trams have been transporting Lisbon residents up and down hilly streets since 1901. And even though their numbers are shrinking, they're still popular. Before buses and trains started to dominate the city's transportation system in the 1950s, hundreds of trams circulated along over 60 miles of track. Now just 50 of the historic trams are left.
Anyone who comes here, whether they like trams or not, is dazzled by the collection. Collectibles are usually small, not life-size. Old cars, many people have them, but this is unique. It's unique.
With little resources and equipment, Marquez and his associates often repair the trams with their bare hands. Marquez also owns a tram-themed restaurant in downtown Lisbon. His ultimate goal is to open a tram museum.
Greece's tourism industry is experiencing a slow start this summer as the fallout from the pandemic continues to curb international travel. But business owners are still preparing for a wave of guests.
The picturesque seaside village of Kakari on the Greek island of Samos is unusually quiet for this time of year. Sunbeds on its long pebble beach lie mostly empty, and only a few customers peruse local shops. About a month after Greece officially reopened to international visitors, uncertainty about travel during a pandemic is still taking its toll on the country's tourism industry. In early June, hotels were operating at around 20% capacity on average.
I believe that no hotel this year will make a profit. Most will probably experience losses.
Greece's tourism income fell more than 75% last year compared to 2019, dropping from $21 billion to $5 million. The government says it hopes to reach half the 2019 visitor level this year. Business owners are hoping for the best. They're opening hotels, shops, and restaurants as the summer wears on. Vaccine drives speed up, and confidence in travel increases. Petra Marhanike, originally from Germany, has been running a gift and garment store in Kakari since 1994. Marhanike used to employ 4 people, but she's been forced to cut back to just 1 until business picks up.
Well, we open to survive, to pay our rents, to pay the people which are working with us, my staff, but of course I hope it's getting better.
Alexandros Malalargis, who runs 2 hotels and a scuba diving center in Kakari, seems slightly more optimistic.
So far, bookings for our hotel are still low, but we are confident that come July they will pick up. We are already looking forward to a really strong August and September.
Greece was one of the first European Union countries to reopen for tourism this year, allowing visitors in since mid-May. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Still to come, in Tokyo, Olympics organizers are giving away 1 million tickets to students, but schools are concerned about the dangers that could come with attending the games. Find out more on NTD News. Montreal goaltender Carey Price keeps his team's slim hopes of winning the Stanley Cup alive as the Canadiens emerge with a 3-2 overtime victory over the defending champion Tampa Bay Lightning. Price made 32 saves, including several key stops in overtime, before Josh Anderson's second goal of the game sealed victory for the Canadiens. Montreal now trails Tampa Bay 3-1 in the NHL's best-of-7 championship series. They would have to win the next 3 games to win the Stanley Cup. Of the 27 previous teams to fall behind 3-0 in a Stanley Cup final series, only the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs fought back to win. Montreal could win a record-extending 25th Stanley Cup, but it would be Canada's first since they last won it in 1993. Organizers of the 2021 Olympic Games have offered Japanese students the chance of a lifetime, special access to tickets for the competitions. But a spike in COVID-19 cases has schools and their parents rethinking their plans, which is a potential blow for hundreds of thousands of young fans.
Olympic dreams aren't only for the athletes. In Japan, organizers have set aside 1 million tickets for students, giving them a chance to watch some of the world's best athletes compete. But amid a fresh surge of COVID cases, schools are facing some hard decisions. Principal Jun Tashiro had originally planned to take 500 of his primary students to Tokyo.
We are still preparing to help make our children's dreams come true, but there may be some risks that cannot be resolved.
Tashiro has tried to map out the pros and cons. He says right now, because of the risk, he's leaning no. And he is not alone. More than half the tickets for the school program have already been canceled. COVID cases in Tokyo spiked to more than 700 last Saturday, a 5-week high. And with vaccines in short supply, parents are worried too.
Adults have not yet all been vaccinated, and vaccinations for children haven't even started. So it's really hard to decide whether to let my child go or not.
Japan has already barred all spectators from overseas and capped domestic audiences at 10,000 for each venue. If cases continue to rise, organizers say they will push ahead with the competitions without the audience.
The last ever Manic Monday at Wimbledon produced a wild day of fourth-round action. Top men's seed Novak Djokovic and women's #1 Ash Barty both advanced to the quarterfinals. Djokovic cruised past Chile's Christian Garin to move to within 3 wins of a record-equaling 20th Grand Slam title. But Roger Federer remains on the hunt for a 9th Wimbledon title after beating Lorenzo Sonego. Djokovic will face unseeded Hungarian Martin Fucsovics. Federer must wait to discover his quarterfinal opponent since the deciding match was interrupted by rain. Australia's Ash Barty reaches the quarterfinals for the first time. She'll face another Australian. 17-year-old Coco Gauff's hopes of a first Wimbledon quarterfinal were dashed by 2018 champion Angelique Kerber. As we continue our focus on health and well-being, we look at 13 reasons why you should enjoy some berries.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Berries of all different types are excellent for your health. They're available fresh but also frozen if you can't get any. They're great over cereal and yogurt or even in smoothies. Here are 13 reasons to make berries a part of your diet. Number 1, they are low in sugar fruits. Unlike grapes, another popular fruit, berries tend to be lower in sugar and thus healthier for your blood sugar levels. Number 2, blackberries are high in folate. That's good news for you pregnant ladies or those trying to conceive. Number 3, fiber. Berries are an excellent source of fiber, which has been shown to reduce cholesterol levels, improve digestion, and keep you feeling fuller longer. Number 4, high water content. Juicy berries are loaded with water, which keeps you hydrated and is good for your blood sugar levels, as well as keeping you feeling fuller for longer. Number 5, antioxidant boost. The rich, gorgeous colours of berries means they're loaded with good-for-you antioxidants that boost immune function and reduce oxidative stress. Number 6, cancer protection. Blueberries' robust antioxidant content has been linked with decreased risk of developing certain types of cancer, including breast and colon cancer. Number 7, reduce inflammation. There's an antioxidant in berries that can reduce inflammation, which is related to illness including heart disease and arthritis. Number 8, lose troublesome belly fat. Belly fat may be an indicator of higher risk for certain diseases, including diabetes and heart disease. Blueberries may be helpful in boosting fat burning in the abdomen. Number 9, mineral boost. Not only are berries full of antioxidant-rich vitamins, they're also loaded with crucial minerals including magnesium, potassium, copper, and manganese. Number 10, great for the skin. Not just from the antioxidants and high water content in the berries you eat, but putting them on your skin in a face mask can balance tone and remove impurities. Mash 2 tablespoons of blueberries, then mix them with 3 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice and 1 cup of brown sugar. Gently scrub onto the face and rinse with cold water. Number 11, boost memory. There are potent chemicals found in berries that have been shown to support healthy memory and cognitive function. Number 12, versatile. Berries can be used in sweet and savory recipes or eaten on their own for a nutritious snack. And number 13, how amazing do they taste? I mean, do you really need another reason?
Thanks for watching. My team and I are honored to be your source for the news. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.